Greetings, fellow heathens. My name is Matt, and this is the Heathen Hearth side. In this series of videos, I will be discussing various topics related to heathenry. Some of them will be historically based, so explorations of Norse culture as it was and how we can relate that to today. I will be doing some opinion-based videos, which will just contain my own personal take on subjects such as the Havamal and just other things that catch my interest. So that's the purpose of this video series. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have been a practicing heathen since 2010, so for 7 years now. And I first came to the path of Asatru because, well, not because of, but while I was homeless. I had, at this point in my life, broken with the religion that I was raised in, which was Roman Catholic, for a lot of reasons that I won't go into right now. I will discuss that in a future video. But suffice it to say that I simply had a lot of trouble relating my inner nature to the teachings in Christianity. I just never could reconcile the two. So I spent a period of several years where I studied all the different world religions and found a great many of them to be just as equally alien to my inner nature. And I remember that it was in 2010 when I was homeless during my first winter, and that was a sore trial to say the least. I had no fire, very little food, little money. I was poorly clothed, and basically very ill prepared for the situation. But moving on from that, I remember that this was when I first read the Poetic Eddas and the Prose Edda, so to include the Havamal and some of the sagas. And not that I read them from, one end to the other all the way through, but I just kind of paged through them and just got the real sense of what our gods were really all about. I learned about their struggles, I learned about their goals and their ways, and it changed something in me because when I was Catholic and when I was studying the other world religions, I found them to be quite interesting and in many cases with a beautiful philosophy behind them, but I just did not feel that I belonged. And when I read of the Norse gods, here was somewhere that I could belong. Here was something that I could really not just believe in, but practice. And that's an important distinction, I feel, in spirituality and in religion is you can believe in something, but not practice it. And you could be practicing the teachings of one religion without necessarily believing in that religion. So I think it's an important distinction to make that not only was it something that I could believe in, but that I could also practice. And I remember that it was a bitterly cold December night. It was about 5 degrees and quite windy. And I remember just asking Odin, Thor, if you're there, help me. Just help me to survive. Help me to live. That's all I ask for. And, I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning and I had an epiphany. I started being able to figure things out. I learned how to make fire with no matches, with no lighter. I learned what kinds of wood worked best, what kinds of woods did not work or did not burn very well for very long. I learned and began to become creative and inventive, and it was just like this wellspring of creativity had just arisen in me. And I just knew that the gods had heard my prayer and had answered it. Because, I started using the reasoning abilities and the survival instincts and the things that have kept human beings alive through the toughest times in history just out of the blue. I mean, I had none of those skills. I had nothing. I didn't know any of those things before this happened. So I really, really began to feel the presence of the gods in my life. And I'd like to just pull a quote from the Havamal because this really does explain my experience that I had. And if you'll just give me a second to find it. So it's in the Havamal, and by the way, I'm using the Henry Adams Bellows translation. So it is 139, stanza 139 through stanzas 142. So I'd like to just read the whole thing out to you, okay? Starting with 139. I ween I hung on the windy tree, hung there for nights full 9. With the spear I was wounded, and offered I was to Odin myself to myself. On the tree that none may ever know what root beneath it runs. None made me happy with loaf or horn, and there below I looked. I took up the runes, shrieking I took them, and forthwith back I fell. 9 mighty songs I got from the son of Bolthorn Bestla's father, and a drink I got of the goodly mead poured out from Orthrorir. Then I began to thrive, and wisdom to get. I grew, and well I was. Each word led me on to another word, each deed to another deed. And this very much applied to my own experience. So in a small way, in my own way, I experienced what Odin experienced in his trial to grasp and gain the runes. Now, obviously, I did not hang on an ash tree and stab myself with a spear and hang there for nights full 9. But I was in a very sore situation. It was a sore trial and test of my abilities. And I offered myself and my efforts to the gods and to myself. And once I did that, I began to grow well and wisdom to get. Each word led me to another word. Fire led me to kindling, tinder, fuel. Each deed to another deed. So in learning how to do one thing, it led me to learn how to do other things that all contributed to my survival. Now, my life is very much different these days. I work a good steady job. I have a partner, and this May we will have been together for 5 years, and I'm honored to be able to make this video for our fine community here. And I think that one of the things that is really outstanding about Asatru is that it is very much a practical religion. It's not as philosophical. Certainly the stories provide many examples of morals and wisdom and ways in which we can increase our holdings and our family and our honor. But it's, for me at least, has been less about let me pray for something and let me really think about something, and more about let me go do this. Even if I fail, even if I don't get it right the first time, let me go do this. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. And if I'm doing my best and I ask the gods for help, they will help me. But it's not going to work unless I do something. I like the fact that our gods do not necessarily do for us. They help us do for ourselves. And for me, and in my opinion, that leads in our hearts to a greater sense of accomplishment, a feeling of power and satisfaction and joy. Because we did not have to rely on someone who is stronger than us, the gods, entirely and solely to do something for us. We did it ourselves. We had some help, certainly. Many times, you might find that the gods have answered your prayer when you've prayed for strength to get through this workday, or for wisdom because you need to figure something out, or for compassion. If you're listening to a friend and you just can't understand their situation, but you ask for those things and they're given, but then when you get through that workday, or when you figure out that recipe or how to fix that broken wagon wheel, or when you understand your friend's situation and you are able to advise them with compassion and wisdom, you did have help, but you did that yourself. The gods helped you, but you are the one that did it. And that always just leads to a very high sense of self accomplishment, in my opinion, which is one of the things that I very much love about Asatru. So, in closing, I welcome you to my video series, The Heathen Hearth Side, and I look forward to having many more chats with you. If there are topics that you would like to maybe see me cover, or you have questions or situations that you'd like to see a video done about, please feel free to drop them in the comments section underneath this video, or you can email me directly at Matthew R, MATTHEWR, at theazatrucommunity.org. Thanks for spending some time with me. Hail the gods, hail the ancestors, and hail our community.